believe what they say to believe, then you're doomed. Let no man deceive you by any means. For that day shall not come, except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition. And then in verse 4, who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God or that is worshipped, so that he is God, sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. Now, this is where we start asking the legitimate question. What is this temple of God that Paul's referring to, 2 Thessalonians 2? What is this temple of God? What is it? Some say it's a building. Let's put this up on the screen, this building here, okay? Number one, this building is a temple. It is I think it's the Pantheon, the Parthenon, something like that. But it is a temple where the gods live, all right? So just kind of get that in your mind. Is the last days temple going to be a building that people erect out of stones and mortar and steel rods and things like that? I think it's possible because of the passage of Scripture that says that God does not dwell in temples made with hands. We know that the real God, does not dwell in temples made with hands. We know that. So it would stand to reason that the anti-God, the Antichrist, the man of sin, not the Son of Man, the mystery of iniquity, not the mystery of godliness, the Antichrist would somehow, some way present himself in a brick and mortar type of building. So it does stand to reason that is a viable idea. But let's just be honest, okay? Let's just look at reality. Just because some guy sits in a chair and says, "I want everybody to worship me," that don't mean everybody's going to do it. And he can have the whole military of the world shooting everybody, but it doesn't make everybody want to worship him. I think it's deeper than that. I think it's deeper embedded. And, okay, a radio frequency ID, mechanical electronic device stuck under your skin, okay? Why does that nullify you from the possibility of salvation? What is it about that? I think there's something deeper to all of this, something far more sinister, far more deadly to this, and that's kind of what we're going to look at. Let's get our bearings first. Let me show you this graphic. I've used this in a ton of my videos. This is your DNA. This is the book. Remember Psalm 139, "In thy book all my members were written, which in continuance were fashioned, when as yet there was none of them." So this is the book of who you are. That book it's like a scroll. You see it like rolled up like a scroll. And it's rolled up in these things called chromosomes. That's your chromosomes. You have 23 pairs of them, 46 of them, and they are in the nucleus of your cell. Technically, you have God sitting in the temple of your body is what you have. That book, that DNA, that book is God. In the beginning was what? The Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. So, I mean, what you have here is a real live picture of the Word sitting in the holy place of his tabernacle or the temple, because that cell is a beautiful picture of the tabernacle where God dwelt. Let me share something. A guy called me this morning, and my back is hurting really bad today. And you would think, oh, it's that cold weather. It's like September the 10th. The high yesterday was 100. The high today is going to be like 101, 102. So it's not the cold weather. But anyway, I had a guy call me today, and we were just kind of talking about things like this and some things that I learned about my disease. My disease, of course, is, number one, I'm ugly. Number two, I'm a sinner. But my other disease is that I have diabetes. And when the doctor explained it to me, when I did some reading on it, I got diabetes for dummies, because that's what I was. When I was looking at that, I'm just going, God, that is amazing. Because insulin, which you have these little nodes on your pancreas that produce this thing called insulin, this chemical. And what this insulin does is that it opens, and it's the only thing in the whole body that can do it. It opens the cells, it opens a door in your cell, and it allows food to go into your cell so that it can be burnt. Now, let me show you. I don't think I have a picture of it here, but let me show you this, okay? In the wilderness tabernacle, there was it had a gate to it. There's only one way into it. And a Levite priest was the only guy who was ever allowed in there. And so in my body, the insulin are Levite priests. Because what the Levite priests did was they would take the sacrifice, whether it was grain or animal flesh. Okay? It was always something you could eat. Did you ever think about that? That when God said bring sacrifices, he never said, yeah, a bundle of sticks I think would be good. Couple rocks over there. Bring a bucket of dirt. That'll work. People brought things that you eat. Grain, a bird, an ox, a goat, a lamb, or whatever it was. You brought things that you could eat. And you brought it to who? The Levite. And the Levite was responsible for taking the food that you brought. And he is the only one allowed to take that into the tabernacle. When they got it into the tabernacle, into the curtain, okay, behind the gate, what do they do with it? They burn it. And insulin is the only thing that can take the food that you eat and take it into the cell, converts it to sugar, or it's already converted to sugar, and it takes that food into the cell so it can be burnt for energy. I'm just going, God, that is amazing. Because one of the problems with Mike Hoggard is that his Levite priests are lazy, and there's not enough of them. And so all of this sugar builds up in my blood because there's not enough priests to take the sugar and put it in the cells. And the cells are going, hey, need some sacrifices here. The fire's going out. And when my blood sugar gets real high, it's because that sugar has not gone into the cells, and I get very weak and tired, and I just lay on the couch, and that's just amazing to me. So this right here, look at this. This is you. This is God sitting on the throne, all right? Now remember this number, because this is what we're talking about today. This number 46 or 23 pairs of chromosomes, where all your book is, sitting in the most holy place of the temple, all right? So I want you to think along this line now. If your cell is a temple, if literally your body is, in a literal fashion, the temple of God, how can you defile it? And I believe it's possible for that temple to be defiled. How is it defiled? How is the temple defiled? And you say, well, in AD, blah, 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 Antiochus Epiphanes did this and did this. Can I ask you a question? Where's that in the Bible? Because I didn't see it. It's not there. Not in our Bible. It's not there. What does the Bible say about defiling the temple? And we'll kind of get there a little bit later on. But just kind of keep that in mind. Does eating bacon defile the temple? No, it couldn't. Because now that we are living under the New Testament law, the New Testament actually didn't change the Old Testament law, because that's what we get accused of. God never changed the law, so you can't eat pork. Nah. You're right, he didn't change the law. What he changed was the pig, because it used to be unclean. And if you've ever seen pigs, they're unclean. And so it used to be unclean, but now it's clean. It is sanctified by the Word of God and the prayer of thanksgiving. So God didn't change the law. He cleaned the pig. So that does not defile the temple. What does? Let's look at it a little bit further here. Remember from 1 Kings chapter 7. In the temple that Solomon built, and there is an amazing catch to all this as it comes to Solomon. 1 Kings chapter 7 talks about these two pillars that were erected at the entrance to the temple. One was called Jachin, and one was called Boaz. And if you look at the measurements there in 1 Kings, they were 18 cubits tall, and then you had these, what the King James says, chapiters on there. And what that is it's a variation of the word capital. And the word capital, if you just break down words, it just makes it simple. A capital is a cap, okay? And it caps it all is what it does. That's what a capital is. Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., they are the music symbol, da capo, okay, means go back to the beginning, go back to the cap, the top. And so anyway, you had these chapiters on top that were 5 cubits. 18 plus 5 is 23. So you had the double chromosome pairs symbolized in this. And nobody knew this back in the day when Solomon built this temple 3,000 years ago. They did not know that the humans had 46 chromosomes in their cells. So they just built it, and that's what happened. Let's look at this number in other places. Genesis 2:23, and Adam said, look at these words here. This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man. Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. In your King James Bible. And I just want you to get this. When I see stuff like this, I buy it. I believe it. Now, maybe you're listening, and maybe you just don't buy this whole King James thing. Bible college, it was all, the original manuscripts and the old translations, right? And yeah, that's how it is. Well, here's what all I'm going to ask you to do is go back and count that number again. And this is what I counted. Look at the words that are underlined. And Adam said, and all the words that Adam said. Now, what I'm giving you is a fact. It is an undeniable fact. It is a searchable fact. You also can get a King James Bible